Okay, we're looking here now at marketing communications, and we're just going to start off with a general look at communications as a whole and see how this applies to the topic. Right, what we have here is just a basic model of the communication process, just as anyone when they attempt communication, regardless of whether it's marketing or in education, they're trying to get their point across. So if we see here, actually this is a source, so that could be you or the lecturer or the firm trying to communicate. Now the message you send here, the coded message, is not the same as the decoded message, so I'll come to that in a second. So you think what you're going to say, what your key points are. Medium of transmission, now this could be through PR, it could be through an advert, it could be through sponsorship, it could be through any form whatsoever, but what you say and what is taken can be two different things. You think about it if you're ever in a meeting or in a class and someone says something and you leave and you realise later you did totally wrong understanding of what had to be achieved. Now that is because the communication broke down. Now what you have here is, as it goes through the source coded message, medium of transmission, decoded message to the receiver, you then have the feedback. So it's only when, if you put out, say, an advert asking people to phone this number to call something, if you didn't get any calls, you would know something has gone wrong. Okay, now what gets in the way here is noise. Now noise is anything that gets in the way of communication. It doesn't have to be physical noise. If you, for example, if you're watching a TV advert and the Hoover's on or something like that, yeah, that's noise. But it can also be, you could be in a room with a message, a room with a meeting, and it's too hot or too cold, or if it's something snowing outside, people's attention is diverted. So noise is anything that gets in the way of communication. For example, years ago when Princess Diana died, adverts were pulled from the TV because no one was paying attention. There was too much noise going on elsewhere. And I think this model was a tribute, I can't even spell it here. If you can see it, Schramm's model of communication. Anyway, so you get the idea. Now anytime someone is trying to communicate, this is what's going on. Source, coded message, decoded message, and the feedback is critical. And this is just what we're saying over there, so this is just explaining it in a bit more depth. So, okay. Sometimes communication can go wrong. If you look at the advert on the right, you see a vacuum cleaner down here, and it's nothing sucks like an Electrolux. So the idea is it's so powerful, it's pulling over the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Right, now you put that in America, that fails, totally fails, because sucks means it's rubbish. So in an American audience, this idea, they're looking at that thinking, what, nothing is as bad as an Electrolux. Communication failure. And the one in the left here, it says cover your head in cover your home in a click. It's about e-insurance, but if you to read that in a certain way, you might think it said something else. Now this one here, the one on the left is the official Twitter hashtag for Susan's Boyle's album, Susan's album party. And it's the person's here saying that either the social media team are either very naive or geniuses. I think they were naive. The one on the left I think is a hoax, but it's quite funny anyway. It's about these energy strips, so how you say it there. But I just put that in because it made me laugh. Now, what you're sometimes doing in communication is sometimes a process. Like sometimes it's about the category. You're trying to tell people about a category of product, not the actual product, just the product itself that they need. This new thing that's out there. Then the next stage is talking about brand awareness. So it's to say that a brand is particular in this market, or that this brand has a certain attitude, a certain style, a certain panache. Then it's about the you're trying to get a positive purchase attitude. Then it's about purchase intention. Get this product, and then it might even get to where to get the product. So if you see this as a sort of filter, sometimes you're just saying, look, here's something they don't know about. You're communicating about this. And then you work it down so that by the time you get to the last stage, people know about the product, they know the features, so you're telling them specific information about where to buy it, what the price is, what the offer is, etc. here. So, not critical, but worthwhile remembering. Now, what we're looking at here is any firm, any organisation thinks, what do we want our customers to know about us? Okay, what's the key thing you want to communicate? Then you have to say, well, what do they already know, right? Do they know nothing at all, or do they get some knowledge? And then the difference is the communication gap. Now immediately you're thinking here, how can this gap be filled? I'm glad you asked that, I'm glad you thought that, because this is how you fill this communication gap. Don't know if I moved too quickly between the slides here, but it's a promotional mix. Now key point here, this is from the Dib Simkin book, but for other books we'll have different variations on this. It doesn't matter. Key thing is here, you get a lot of options at your disposal, whether it's personal selling, whether it's publicity and PR or sales promotion, sponsorship. Incidentally, some people would put sponsorship within publicity and PR. Could be direct mail, advertising, the internet, all these things. You decide what ingredients you will use to fit your needs better. And of course, this is something that we probably all know about. The most powerful form of communication is word of mouth. And okay, you see an advert for something, that's what they're going to say, buy this, it's so good. But when someone else tells you, that's more important. And according to this quote, I don't know if it's factually, it's been proven, but 20 to 50% of all purchasing decisions word of mouth. And you think about your own behaviour when someone has told you something, you've thought, yeah, that's important, that's interesting, and you've went and purchased it. Did you rely on a word of mouth? Was it suitable? Now this is one of the, you might have heard of AIDA, and this is basically attention, interest, desire and action. This is one model. It doesn't mean they say everyone follows this model, but this idea that first of all you're trying to get people's attention for the product, then generate an interest, then desire, then action. Right? Some people would argue you can actually jump straight to action from this, but so maybe go through these stages. And this links to the fact that thinking, so you're getting them thinking about a product, thinking about what it can do, what the message is. Then it's a feeling, a positive feeling, or it's a negative feeling, trying to change it, and ultimately doing. Get them to do it. Will they buy the product? So maybe focus more on the left, attention, interest, desire and action. So when you look at communication messages, what do you think they're trying to get you to do? And this is just really the same thing again, from awareness to adoption. So you see here that awareness is mass communication, same for it with the interest as well. The evaluation, you might go to personal sources, you might go to websites, etc. There could be the trial, when you're asking, and that's why a lot of products say, yeah, take it out, try it. Well, even a lot of online and software, they try it for a few weeks, etc. so that you can see how it goes. And then the last line here is adoption, whether you take it on board from this. This is important to remember as well, because within communication we have push and pull. Now the idea is this, push policy is this, so a push policy is, now this is, if you look at the dotted line here, this is a flow of communications, okay? So the flow of communications, in some cases the manufacturer, the producer, is pushing it onto the wholesalers, or if there are no wholesalers, onto the retailers. And then of course the retailers communicate with the wholesalers, communicate with the retailers, and then the retailers communicate with the consumers. So in other words, you're pushing it through the distribution channels and you're communicating to each stage here. However, what you might have is this, you might have a pull policy whereby what you do is, if you look at the communication here, it goes straight to the consumer. So you see an advert for something, you see the promotion, you see this, whatever it may be, sponsorship, and you think that looks good, that suits me, and you go to the retailer who might think, oh, I'm getting a lot of people coming in asking for this, and so they will start to stock it. So it's like push or pull now. In truth, you probably get a mixture of both, right? So people will, companies will communicate directly with the consumers and also with the wholesalers and the retailers. So a mixture is probably more common than anything. But just to remember that sometimes there's a lot of communication goes on behind the scenes we don't know anything about. Now this is just a little point here about communication budgets, just in general here, and it's how do you decide what your promotional budget should be? Well, a percentage of sales, that makes sense. If your sales are 1 million and you say, well, we'll spend 10%, that's the average industry, that's what you do. But the problem with that is if your sales go down, does your advertising budget go down? And the reason why the picture of the plane and the storm up there is because what those, one writer said, if you're in a storm, you don't turn off your engines to save fuel or anything like that. You need more. So some people would argue when your sales go down, you need to increase your advertising budget, right? And obviously it depends on the industry, the product, the brand, the situation, but percentage of sales is a general rough guide. What you can afford, again, it makes sense. You might think, okay, we've got so much money left over, let's spend that. Bit unscientific though, but for a lot of businesses that makes sense. Match the competition. So in other words, whatever they spend, you spend. Now this could be an absolute figure, whereby, if they spend 1 million, you spend 1 million, or it could be, whatever they spend, you're always spending half of it. So it means if they step up, you do the same. Rule of thumb is a combination of all of the above. You just think, okay, you're taking it all on board, maybe what you can afford, match the competition, and you think, does that sound okay? Yeah, and you go for it that way. Probably the best method is, or the most logical from a marketing viewpoint, is objective and task approach. In other words, you set an objective and you cost them. So if you say, what's your objective? We want 90% of all males aged between 16 and 25 to have a positive attitude about this brand. Then you do the sums, add it up to achieve that, and it comes to 20 million. So you think that's too expensive. So you drop the 90% figure to 50%. Do the sums, still too expensive. So you drop it to 30% and maybe just have to be aware of them, and you come out with a figure. So the idea is you set your objective and try and price them, and that's what you should be doing. What are you trying to achieve, and develop the budget for it. So of course you can't really gain access to how companies make these decisions. You can read about them for spending them, but you don't really know the reasons behind it. So these are the key methods we just take on board. So sum up here really, communication. Of course, we used to use the term promotion years ago. Now we talk about communication, right? Because promotion, yes, you are promoting yourself, but you're trying to communicate. So you've got to communicate clearly with your target market. There's different marketing models put forward, so don't worry about that, whether it's AIDA or anything like this, but it's for another day. So push is about getting your product onto the shelves through communication. Pull is taking it, trying to get the consumers to bring it off the shelves. So just think about that. Okay, so thanks for listening.